Hi class 7, good morning, how are you? So this is going to be another class today. So today is Friday, but generally we don't have on Friday, but yes, we have to start. I'm giving extra classes on Friday also. So we'll just start right away, okay? We won't waste time, so I'll talk to you later. Anyways, good morning everybody. I guess you are all doing fine, class 7. So we were at Muhammad bin Tughlaq and we read till where he actually explained till where he died, how he died inside that bush. Inside, people thought that the elephants must have been running and must have trampled them up, but that's what we all come to know about it. So I'll just read from the taxation, from the shifting Mohammed bin Tughlaq 1325 to 1351. So I will read from the shift of capital, and then I'll go to introduction of token currency, Karachi expedition, Khurasan expedition. Then we'll do Firoz Shah Tughlaq and some aspects of Tughlaq rule. I'm going to read today, and after that I'm going to give you the explanation. After that we finish with the Sayyid and the Lodhi dynasty. Okay. The shift of capital in 1327. What actually happened? So Muhammad bin Tughlaq decided to shift the capital of the empire from Delhi to Devagiri, which he renamed as Daulatabad. Most historians believe that there were two reasons for it. The Sultan felt that he would be able to control and administer the better empire from Daulatabad, since it was located in the center of the empire. The Mongols were a constant threat to Delhi. Daulatabad would be safe from Mughal attacks. I have explained this earlier. All explanation has been given to you. I am just reading it so that we are on the same page of the book and we get to know, and we'll get some answers also from here. Muhammad bin Tughlaq ordered the entire population of Delhi to move to Daulatabad. People did not want to leave their homes but had to obey the king's orders. However, the king soon realized that it was impossible to keep a watch on the northern frontiers of Daulatabad. So he ordered a reshift of the capital. All people who had gone to Daulatabad were asked to come back to Delhi. This year, the year in 1327, all the families, I have read this before. Okay, anyways, we'll do it again. Introduction of token currency in 1329. Muhammad bin Tughlaq introduced a token currency that there was a shortage of silver during this period. So the Sultan decided to mint coins of brass and copper from date. No, I have done this. After this, I gave you the explanation, right? So actually, we are going to start from Karachi expedition, right? Absolutely. So we are going to do from Karachi expedition today, and that is going to be all to secure the northern frontiers. Yes, I had said that I'm going to start the Karachi expedition, right? If I'm not wrong. So we'll do that. Just a second, let me see where my notes are. I have saved up notes for you. Delhi Sultanate. Okay, we have done the Khalji, we have done that. Ghiyasuddin, Daulatabad, taxations in Dawab, introduction of currency. Anyways, okay, so let's start. I wasted so much of time. Anyways, so Karachi expedition. To secure the northern frontiers of the Sultanate, Muhammad bin Tughlaq sent an army to Kangra region, modern Himachal Pradesh. After annexing this region, the army proceeded towards Tibet. It suffered heavy casualties. Many deaths were there during this Karachi expedition in Himachal Pradesh. Khurasan expedition to expand the empire, Muhammad bin Tughlaq decided to conquer Khurasan in Central Asia. He raised a large army and spent a lot of money on weapons and other war supplies. The soldiers were also given 1 year's salary in advance and incentive. However, the expedition was withdrawn because of the difficulties the army would face in an alien land. So I had told you earlier also how a few army people left and they had to go away and there was no other option except of that loss. Then the Sultan was unable to control his empire also as well in Warangal, Gujarat, Bengal and other places. Two powerful regional kingdoms, Vijayanagar and Bahmani, came up in the South India and the Deccan respectively. We will read about them more about the Bahmani and the Deccan kingdoms and the Vijayanagar kingdoms in the next chapter, I guess. Firoz Shah Tughlaq 1351 to 1388. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was Muhammad bin Tughlaq's cousin. He wanted the support of the nobles and the ulema so that he would allow them peacefully, thus he gave them bigger iktas. So this was also the Firoz Shah Tughlaq also, he tried to be more, that giver type of thing to the noble people, but they overruled him and his work also did not go through that. So Firoz as a reformer, Firoz Shah was very successful. He built many canals, tanks, wells, hospitals and rest houses. Firozpur, Firozabad and Hisar Firoza. He set up many educational institutions and also had many Sanskrit works translated into Persian and Arabic. After the death of Firoz Shah, his empire broke up. Many regions became independent soon. The Sultanate was reduced to Delhi and the surrounding areas. So these are the things which took place during that time. And when one good person goes away, if I am not mistaken, you will see, check back into history, all the sultans or whoever the people who were ruling, they always put more emphasis on educational institutions for education, to teach people, to learn people, so that they also did not have any problems. So if you are educated, you will come to know what's actually happening around, isn't it? You will have that knowledge. So education is a very big important thing which I see in everywhere I read. And when someone goes away and because a good person goes away, then you see what happens, that people hate good people. They are not able to do their own bad stuff. So when someone goes away, the actual place breaks down. It does not stop, but it breaks down. This is what happened after the death of Firoz Shah. His empire broke up. Many regions became independent and was reduced to Delhi and surrounding areas. Now we see Taimur's invasion, 1398. Taimur was this Mughal king. I had told you, this Mughal invader who was there. He was a nomad. He used to go around places. So the Mongol ruler Taimur was the ruler of a large empire in Central Asia. He invaded India and attacked and looted Delhi. His army massacred thousands of people with the loot collected. He beautified his capital Samarkand with elegant buildings, palaces and mosques. Before leaving Delhi, Taimur appointed Khizr Khan as his deputy in India. Khizr Khan became the first Sayyid ruler, the Sayyid dynasty ruler. Khizr became. So one after another, it's going to see all in the family, one after another people were left around and they went ahead and they did these things. Some aspects of the Tughlaq rule. The consolidation of the Delhi Sultanate took place under the Tughlaq Sultans. You have already read about it. Let us read about some more aspects of the Tughlaq rule. The Sultan was all powerful to rule. However, he needed the support of nobles and yet had to keep them in check. There was a constant struggle between the Sultan and the ulema during this period. Muhammad bin Tughlaq tried to curb down the ulemas. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, however, was lenient with them. Under the influence of the ulemas, Firoz Shah brought back the Sharia laws and ruled according to them. Tughlaq Sultans also tried to legitimize their rule. When the ulema termed Muhammad bin Tughlaq's rule and un-Islamic, he issued coins in the name of the Caliph. He did this to suggest that he ruled according to the wishes of the Caliph. Both Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Shah received the authority to rule from the Caliph. This gave a religious legal sanctity to their rule. The court was very ceremonial. Sijda and Paibos were performed before him. The Sultan sat on a throne on a raised platform. The princes, ministers, heads of the different departments, ambassadors from foreign countries and other officials were given places to stand. Okay. Officials reported matters to the Sultan. Scribes recorded the orders of the Sultan. This is the system, was his office court. I have told you this earlier also. Then we come to the nobility. The nobles were were a very powerful group, most of them were Turkish and Afghan. The rulers often gave high posts to their slaves. Some were governors and other military commanders. Ibn Battuta and Baroni mention many people of humble birth who became nobles during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. These include Ratan and Firoz, both barbers, Najib, a musician, Manka, a cook, and Ladla and Pira, both gardeners. Why were they given this place? Ibn Battuta, that people of humble birth who became nobles, of humble birth, of very low standard people also became nobles. They were given that position. Diwan-e Wizarat concerned with finance, Diwan-e Risalat concerned with religious matters, Diwan-e Arz concerned with military affairs, Diwan-e Insha concerned with the royal correspondence. Okay. The Sultan selected nobles to head the different departments of the state. The Wazir was the Prime Minister. He was very powerful. He supervised the work of all officials, kept a record of revenue and expenditure, and appointed people to important posts. The Qazi was the chief judge and the Sultan's advisor on the religious issues. The Bakshi was the paymaster of the army. The noble who held the overall charge of the army was an Ariz-e-Mumalik. He and his officers recruited and equipped, trained the soldiers. Land control, the Iqta system which is there. During the Sultanate period, the nobles were given grants of the land. The land was called Iqta. The nobles who received it was called Iqtadars. They collected tax from the farmers living in the Iqta. With this money, they maintained themselves, their family, and also paid soldiers under them, bodyguards. In return, they supplied troops to the Sultan whenever he needed them. The slave and the Khalji sultans gave iqtas only to some high military commanders. The iqtadars thus were very few in number. Under the Tughlaqs, they had given it like wholesale, they had given it to everybody. So there was a large number of iqtadars. The sultans tried to check that the iqtadars did not overtax the farmers and that they maintained the required number of troops. The iqtas in theory were transferable. Thus, the Sultan could not take back a particular iqta from an iqtadar and assign another iqta to him. Also, on the death of the iqtadar, his iqta came back to the Sultan. However, from the Tughlaq period, it became hereditary for them. His son, someone else was getting it. Particularly from the reign of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the transfer of iqtas became rare. The iqtadars began to treat them as hereditary and transferring them from father to son. Since the Sultan was not strong enough, he could not stop this practice. Whenever there was a weak sultan, most iqtadars behaved like an independent rulers of the lands. That is the cause of the demolition of this sultans of the Tughlaqs. Then came in the Sayyids dynasty. The Sayyid sultans ruled for a brief period. There were 4 Sayyid kings. I'll come back in the next video.